Okay, so this video is gonna be about the pimp in LA. I mean, not the pimp in LA, the pimp from LA, but he moved to GA. And what else was I gonna say with this? Oh yeah, I was gonna kind of like talk about how these people are Marine Kingdom agents. And I mentioned that before. I have a whole video about it in the playlist that's titled Hypothetically Pedo. And then there's another playlist. I don't know if the video's in there or not, but it's called Geronophiles Are Annoying, where I talk about America especially, and like not even just the recent minor obsession thing, which really kind of just shows that people don't really get how the laws or the law officials work or what they're there for, and they don't really understand what the word minor means, or pedo, or even age of consent. And in fact, no, as a side note, earlier I was thinking about the map term and how it just really didn't make sense, and I think I even went over that in one of my, I don't even know if it was recent or not, but another video I made about paraphilias, where I was talking about the situation with like this video I watched a couple times throughout the years about oh, hold up, wait a minute. I guess that what was that? I don't even know if that was a wasp or what. I guess it just wanted to scare me, but it got really close. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so on Dr. Phil, the ultimate ch0m0 cash for kids system staff, there was this boy who was like 14 or younger or something like that, and he was talking about he was like, he wanted to like assault his siblings and stuff that sounds like generational stuff. Oh, hold up, it came back. Wait a minute, hold up. Okay, I had to run from a wasp, but somebody said something about the boy being a map, which I question people who even use terms like minor or map. Like, the term minor, it's just very obvious that it doesn't, people think it means something that it really doesn't mean. And then there's like so many different forms of being a minor. Like, you're a federal minor till 26, 25. Then there's the 21 one. The 18 one is just about, like, especially when it comes to abuse situations, a lot of people think about it as far as like being able to escape abusive family systems or escape an abuser with supposedly without the police being able to like kidnap you and take you back and charge you and lock you up for leaving or getting kicked out. And that even still really depends, because like depending on your situation, you could have to spend the rest of your life running, or the police can like force you to go back regardless of what. And then with homeless hate, police are always going to want you to like go back quote unquote homeless. You're homeless anyway, so there's that. But that doesn't really have anything to do with like the relational stuff or even SA. And then when it comes to human trafficking or being R-worded or molested by relatives, I mean, that's always going to be what it is regardless of age. But like, how can you really be a quote-unquote map if you are a quote-unquote minor anyways? And I already have videos about how like age of consent is about really being able to charge kids for their own abuse or even for just dating. And then also another thing that I mentioned before, lawyers will always tell people there actually are no laws against who can date who. And then when it comes to the pedo term, I'd rather just say ch0m0 or paraphilia, because there's a lot of different types of paraphilias that people can have. But being with somebody who's 18 or not 18 doesn't really have anything to do, but rather someone's like a pedo or not, to be honest. And this is something that goes into the reason I made the whole Geronophiles Are Annoying videos, because especially in America, there's just like big thing with people pretending that, like, we're not ch0m0s just like really everywhere else, because pederasty and full-blown ch0m0ism has always been normalized in every civilization since ancient times. Like the places where they're always marrying 8-year-old girls and stuff, I mean, they're doing the same thing to little boys, but they just pretend that they're not because of these weird quote-unquote holiness standards that's very far from real holiness. But anyways, so in America, people like to do this thing where, like, if you're 16 and your boyfriend's 15 or whatever, they'll try to make you feel like you're a quote-unquote pedo. But it's just really weird. But then if you're 15 and you're dating a 35-year-old, then that's okay. Stuff like that. That's why I really made the Dronophile videos, and I could still keep continuing to make them, because it's just really annoying how people are. And it even reminds me of this whole situation at Youth Resource Center where this boy from Europe who was talking about how his family was molesting him and stuff, which I don't really know. Well, I guess he started like traveling to escape that, but I don't really know. But anywho, he had told me that the only reason that I think that like age gaps and stuff like that is bad because I'm American, because everywhere else it's considered normal to like get with people as long as their body actually has like the physical ability to like have sex and reproduce, which honestly is true. But it's like things are so superficial. People are getting with people for the wrong reasons anyways. But like overall, the actual definition of pedo would be getting with people, or not even dating, but I guess like essaying people who haven't started puberty yet. That's the actual definition. I'm not saying that like it's right either way. Like all the big age gaps are pederasty and they're all paraphilias, or I'll say the Lemites, but that would be the actual definition. So as far as the whole minor thing and the map stuff, realistically, I mean, people want to say that stuff like, if you're 18 and your boyfriend's 17 or your girlfriend's 17, wait till you're 18, which can even go into the thing with laws, as I mention all the time. The Freemason, KKK, Luciferian, lawyers and judges hate the youth, and society hates the youth, so younger people are more likely to get charged and get a life sentence for any and everything. Like, for example, 2 17-year-olds could be dating the day that the boyfriend turns 18. The parents can press charges and get the kid put on the sex offender registry and all of that. Or also how I mentioned that the kid victims get charged with quote-unquote CP, which I don't even really like that term. As far as I could care, all corn is people abuse imagery. And what was the other thing with that? Oh yeah, then with the age of consent, and how like people who are below the age of consent can be charged for dating each other, but if they were dating like a ch0m0, then nothing would happen. Or like if a 7-year-old R-words somebody because they're acting out their trauma or something that they've seen, they'll get charged and go to jail for the rest of their life. But if a 40-year-old man R-words somebody or R-words multiple people, he won't even get charged, and you'll be lucky if he even gets put on the ankle monitor, stuff like that. That's all done by design. And so it's like, in America, people have this weird, hypocritical, fake care stuff going, but really nobody cares. And I get that, like, people don't want to do what it really would take to help people because they would get charged for it, and it's not really legal because abusers make the laws. And this is gonna be all over the place, to be honest. But I know I was still kind of like supposed to be getting back to that point with the 14-year-old. It's like, no, I think, did I finish that? I don't even know. But you can't really be a map and be a minor at the same time. But I don't even really get the point of like the map term, because when it comes to sexuality and paraphilias, sexuality is fluid. So it's like typically you wouldn't just be attracted to people who are under 18 or under 15 or 16 or 14 or 12, depending on what the age of consent is where you live. I just find that really interesting. Like, and then when it comes to like the pedo thing, as I was saying, if being attracted to teenagers or younger people in general, which I mean it is pederasty, but if that's what people are gonna admit is pederasty, then like if you like people who are 18 plus and they're still too young for you, you're still gonna be in pederasty, and you're still gonna be a paraphiliac, as I would call it. Although people should keep in mind there's many different types of paraphilias. So it's like it wouldn't be any less bad. But if you wanted to go by the actual definition of pedo, that would be being attracted to people younger than 8, at least for girls. And it seems like boys don't start puberty till like 18. I really don't know, but I know I've heard people say that like if a 10-year-old girl gets pregnant, then she didn't get pregnant by a 10-year-old boy because a 10-year-old boy can't get somebody pregnant. I don't really know how true that is, but I just know that like, at least for girls, that would be younger than 8, which is horrible. But that would be by actual definition, because of course the occultic, eugenicist, Freemason, R-word, and psychiatrists or mental health professionals, they make these terms anyways. And one of the points of psychiatry was to normalize CSA and things like that. So there's that, which could be a whole nother video. But it's like the term minor does nothing but actually, it just revolves around the legalities that are used to keep people in abuse, but it doesn't have anything to do really with who can and can't have quote-unquote relations with who. It can depend though, but like if the parents say it's okay, then it's whatever, because one of the things with the minor laws is that like still the person who's abusing would only be charged if the parents actually try to get the person charged, and still even then, since abusers make the laws, it's unlikely. And I talk about this all the time, so like the minor obsession is just really weird, and I would say that it just shows how hypocritical people are and how much people really don't know what certain things mean. Like, you have to be the change you want to see anyways. If you want something to stop and not happen, you gotta make it not happen. So either way, it's gonna be whatever. But anywho, now to get into the whole thing with the pimp from LA. So when I first was around this IHOP, after escaping my abuse, because I didn't really I didn't have the money to go anywhere else yet. There was this one dude who, he was a ch0m0, but he didn't get bad till like the second year of me being around there. And that's when the dude that came from LA, him and his mom, and they moved to GA, and he was working there too. And like I already knew that like the first dude, which was, I used to call him, what did I call him? The big Mexican dude. I already knew he was a ch0m0. He was always like flirting with the staff too, but he got really, really bad when the other dude came around. And what's the saying? Powers in numbers or something like that, or birds with a feather flock together or something like that. But the second dude, I would call him the light-skinned Mr. Bean, because he looked like Mr. Bean, but if he was like light-skinned. And apparently in the South people call it quote-unquote high yellow. I don't like those types of terms, but I know I first heard that when I was in the Jim Crow self-confined placement, and the staff member was talking about how her grandma used to call her high yellow when when the staff would trauma dump. And yeah, so he was a light-skinned Mr. Bean, as I would call him or describe him. And he was always running around talking about how he was a pimp in LA. So he would sex traffic people, and he would be like it was just making agreements with people to make some money, and that's all it was. And him and his mom were perverse, the usual situation. So What else was it? Oh yeah, he would always be talking about how like he was making people's daughters suck his dick, and he was talking about his old boss had fired him because he was essaying his daughter from what it sounded like. Or either way, he was with the dude's daughter and the boss didn't like that. And he was talking about yeah, that's why your daughter was sucking my D and all that stuff. And he was telling me this, for what reason, I don't know. Other than, like, to be perverse. And then, like, the boss, he would let them, like, give me food. But it just couldn't be meat because the meat was too expensive. Which was nice. And so, like when the light-skinned Mr. Bean or the other dude would like make me something to eat, especially light-skinned Mr. Bean dude, he would like say that like he cummed in and stuff like that. Like I remember they had gave me some donuts with like some white cream, which that was before I knew I had iatrogenic mitochondrial dysfunction and metabolic issues, and that screwed my blood sugar up, I'm not gonna lie. And that was before I started taking HCl, so that was horrible after the fact anyways, but I regretted it for more reasons than one, because he was like, yeah, I cummed on it, and then like I didn't really want to eat it anymore. And so, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, the big Mexican dude, as I called him. I remember he was saying one day that like his girlfriend still lived with her mom, and like, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that she's too young for him, but I know that most likely she's way too young for him, so there was that. And there was something else. Oh yeah, and this reminds me, for years I've been saying I was going to make a video about this, because I said that I was going to like talk about how perverse dudes often will like take boys who have no dads or have abusive stepdads, or their mom has abusive boyfriends, and they'll like call themselves quote unquote teaching them game, but really they're just teaching them perversion. So there were these two boys that worked there. They were 14, and wait a minute, I'm trying to think about the timeline with this. They were 14, and I remember one of them, no, because I'm about to go off topic. I almost deleted the recording. So the two boys were 14, and the light-skinned Mr. Bean dude was always telling them that he was going to teach them game, quote unquote, which was really just him running around sexually harassing people and being pedophilic and making pedophilic comments and talking about who was hot, who had a fat butt and stuff like that. One boy, him and his older brother were kicked out because they had snuck out to a party, and so their mom's boyfriend, the stepdad, had kicked them out. The other boy lived with his aunts. And situations like this are really common, and like this is another reason, aside from the fact that people are raised in corn imagery, and people commonly first become addicted or develop sexual addiction somewhere from age 4 to 8, and also just the abuse that people typically go through with family. This is another reason why people end up really screwed up, because they're being coached by ch0m0s and stuff like that. So yeah, he be teaching them game, and honestly a lot of the staff are really drifty. Like I remember there was even this the female staff were talking to this one girl into getting the ABORITION. I think I spelled that right. So it was like a lot of wishy-washy stuff with it, or with some of those people. And then the big Mexican dude, him and the light-skinned Mr. Bean dude were always trying to like gang up on me and encourage me to get with them. And then like the light-skinned Mr. Bean was always talking about how big he was, but the big Mexican dude was always talking about how small he was. And like he did like expose himself to me this one day in his, he was pulling off in his car, but he opened the car door because I was leaving because the place was closing. And he was like, you wouldn't want to come to my house and get with me because I'm small, and me and my brother would do this and that to you and all that stuff. And so there was that. And it's like more and more I was like, I really got to get out of there. And like I needed the money to go to the West Coast. And like before I had even went to the West Coast, I didn't even know that like there were like youth resource centers. So like I was going there, even though I really had never wanted to go to Cali, but I was like, I should go maybe, but I mean there's more resources there for homeless in general, or at least with food anyways, because like when I was in this place in GA, there was nowhere for me to go to shower, there was nowhere for me to go to get food, there was nowhere for me to go for a lot of stuff. I didn't even have like a good sleeping bag. And I know like the first year I didn't have a sleeping bag or blanket or any of that at all. And so like the more the ch0m0s had played all the mind games that they played, in fact no, the light-skinned Mr. Bean dude had even did that thing that like predatory people often do, where like he would talk junk to me and insult me because he was mad I wouldn't get with him. And I remember he was calling me stupid one day because I couldn't figure out how to get the Walmart. And so yeah, I was like, I gotta get out of here, because like there's overall no services, and like I'm not gonna be able to stay here the whole time, or I'm gonna get caught anyways, and I'm gonna get sent back to I'm gonna get locked up, possibly charged, but I'll get locked up either way and then sent back to my abuse situation. So I was like, I gotta get out of here. And then that's when that whole situation happened, where like I was looking for a room to rent, and this one lady had like started sending me news when I was looking for a room to rent, and I was like, well, but then she was 24 though, and then I was like, well, I definitely wouldn't sell any pictures of myself, but I could sell these to somebody. No, not sell them. I sent them to this one ch0m0, but I told him that I was 14 or something like that. And then he sent me over $258, something like that, and then I was able to get a bus ticket. And so yeah, and then I got the heck out of there. Because I told him I was going to come live with him and all that bull crap, but of course I'm not about to do that. See, that's the thing though, a lot of people are desperate and they think that somebody's going to save them. You have to save yourself. But you can play the game with people like that. If you play the game with predatory people like that, you can still get something out of them without actually having to like throw your whole life on the line or like destroy yourself. But of course a lot of people were already being essayed in their previous abuse situation, so they're used to it and they see nothing wrong with it, because society tells them, well, that's what happens when you're a quote-unquote child and you just need to thug it out till 35 and stay with your family. So they run into more essay because they're told that it's okay, and they're blamed for it anyways and told that it's their fault. So, but yeah, there was that. I feel like I'm forgetting something though. Oh yeah, what I'm forgetting is that a lot of the recent RICO indictments with the LA stuff makes me think about this dude. That's what I was forgetting. That's like the main point I was getting at. Because I remember I had said like a couple of months ago that I was going to talk about this situation again. And it definitely does make me wonder if he like left LA and moved all the way to GA to get away from like possible charges or something. That's what it makes me think about. And maybe even if he moved because of like the whole situation he mentioned with his boss. But I can't really remember if he said that happened in LA or if that happened in GA. And that's why he had to start working at the IHOP. So there was that. But keep in mind that these Marine Kingdom agents want to they want to drag you into sex cults, SRA sex cults. They want to drag you in, and then you develop sexual addiction, or if you already have it, it gets worse. And then it's even harder for you to get out. And that's what a lot of people don't think about, aside from literally just being held captive in abuse situations due to ageism and ageist laws or different things like that. The sex addiction will also like keep you in there, and it's like a cycle you get stuck in because you don't really see anything else. It kind of reminds me of like the spirit of heaviness. The spirit of heaviness in like a dark cloud. Now, luckily, I've never been dragged into this. And I'm lucky to just not be the type of person for it. But that's one way it could go. In fact, recently I heard some ch0m0 guy who was telling about he sees me all the time, talking to a bus driver about how he works at some place that's been doing like sex parties, and then the bus driver was like, that's what Puff Daddy had got in trouble for. Honestly, not really. That's not really what he got in. I mean, shoot, he didn't get in trouble anyways, but that's not even really the issue. But I mean, it's all ritualistic. But anywho, before I even go into that, this guy was telling the bus driver about how, like, at his job where he cleans up, there's a lot of sex parties that go on, and I don't know if it's like, it sounds like some Freemason stuff. It probably is. I don't know if he said barbershop or bar, but I may have heard barbershop due to like my own experiences, which I mentioned in that video about sexual addiction, or at least my most recent one anyways. But he was saying that like his girlfriend was mad at him because she feels like he's partaking in sex parties, and he said that he told her he doesn't. He just cleans the walls and the floors, and it's like cleans the walls. That reminds me of those hotels where like higher up people, they go there to do their SRA ritual parties and like sacrifice people, and then the cleaning crews have to clean the ceilings, the walls, because of the different rituals that revolve around fecal matter, like urine, diarrhea, vomit, blood, and part of the rituals is like people are created in like the image of God, so like people are supposed to not be like animalistic and all over the place, and they're supposed to have like values and the laws, and follow God's laws, and be sensible. But one of the things with transhumanism and Luciferianism and devil worship is like people just doing whatever in the world. I know like in biblical terms, I think it would often be referred to as like people having sexual fiascos or sexual relations, like dogs. That would be like I guess that's a less vulgar way. Well, I guess that's definitely less vulgar than like going into full detail. So people being animalistic and possessed, like how higher up elite people will get married just to break the marriage covenant by sleeping around or having orgy rituals and stuff like that. And what was the other thing I was gonna say? Oh yeah, but overall it reminds me of like something I've mentioned plenty of times before when it comes to being possessed, especially at 8 to 11. That was like the height from sexual addiction, and even like just generational Marine Kingdom and sexual issues. And on a daily basis, the different ch0m0 predators that I run into, they make me think back to like how I was from 4 to 11 or 12 maybe. And like I always worked hard to like get over my issues, but I would definitely say running away helped a lot. But it's like the way a lot of these predatory people are that are especially 40 plus years old, 40 to 70 something, a lot of the things that they do remind me of things that I would do and say back when I was like 7 and 8 and 9. And it's like, it's actually kind of scary what I could have become if I didn't work hard to not be that way. And I know a lot of people may not really understand it, but it's like how a lot of these 40 plus year old guys are. I was already like that in a lot of ways at 8, and it's actually like, it's really crazy. And another thing that I mention all the time, paraphilia started in childhood, or quote unquote childhood, whatever that really means.